Hello, everyone. Sorry I missed the first session. I'm a professor of business analytics in econometrics and business statistics at Monash University. That's just a strange title. I'm really a statistician. I have a PhD in statistics from the USA in 1993. I'm a fellow of the American Statistical Association, elected member of the International Statistical Institute, and elected member of the R Foundation, which is a big global open source software development. I'm actually Australia's only representative on that. And I'm not sure whether the military in Australia uses R, but the US military does. And it's kind of ubiquitous in many different organizations in Australia. And you'll have seen some things that have come out of my lab in today's presentations. For example, the Shiny that Paul talked about. And I think Jean's slides had some of my ggplot2 plots in there. Or if it wasn't ggplot2, it was an implementation that someone built on top of that. I've been back in Australia now for 5 years. It's really lovely to be back here. My primary research is in visualization of high-dimensional spaces and statistical inference for data visualization. I've got lots of applications. I mean, my work is applied to all sorts of areas, most recently in physics, but very broadly in ecology and bioinformatics, some microbiome. I'm very passionately interested in sports, and I've done a little dabbling on the side, and that comes from Angela alluded to some sports background. Before I went to the USA, I was actually on the Bob Hawke's Prime Minister's 11 women's cricket team, the first one. That sort of dates me. I'm also very interested, also been applied to politics and education. So just generally, how does the group at Monash connect with ASINs and maybe potential collaborations? So Monash is a node of ASINs. The group in econometrics and business statistics is a very strong statistics group. We call ourselves the NUMBATS, Non-Uniform Monash Business Analytic Team. And we do research in a bunch of different areas. If we distribute the slides, you could click on those links to get to the web pages for these things that I'm talking about too, if you want. So we're very strong in statistical modeling, forecasting, machine learning, high dimensional data visualization, Bayesian computing and modeling, experimental design, theoretical statistics, massive data monitoring systems, exploratory data analysis, spatiotemporal data analysis, and sensor data. And we do have a focus on open source software and societal benefits. So a lot of what we do, we make publicly available, and they're picked up very, very broadly across the globe. There's a couple more groups that we're connected with. SODA Labs, a couple of our researchers are also jointly involved with SODA Labs, which has become very prominent in monitoring all sorts of things across the globe by looking at IP pings. And the most recent one was detecting early and maybe not reported incidents of COVID in different places around the globe based on diminishing internet use. At Monash, we also have the Monash Data Futures Institute, which is very new, and that has an emphasis on AI and data science for social good. We've just hired a director for that, Joanna Batstone, who was part of IBM Watson's group. And this connects the top researchers and research in various different areas across the university. EBS is heavily involved, FIT, science, law, health and arts. It has world-class technology in all sorts of computational areas. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about what I'm interested in. I think this is just a 3-minute talk. I've just got 3 minutes approximately. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a flavor for the things that I'm been working on lately. And when I say inference for data visualization, it's a rethinking about data visualization and a rethinking of statistics in a sense. So we can think of a data plot as a statistic. This is important for various reasons. And particularly if we think about a data plot as specified by grammar, so you actually have like the genetic footprint of a data plot instead of just thinking of an animal in a zoo. That that we know how things all work together. And then we can implicitly define what the null hypothesis behind that plot is. Once you have that in mind, we can use some null generating mechanism to provide draws from a sampling distribution, and from those we embed the data plot and ask humans, because humans still do better than computers in reading data plots. That might not be true in the long run and might not be true on some of the simple cases. But once we do that, we can assess the structure in a data plot as being statistically significant, whether it will apply to future samples. We can also determine the power of a particular data visualization to communicate information. So this broadens the area of statistical inference to really non-standard problems. And I'm going to give you an example. I want you to take a look at the field of plots on the next slide and pick the plot where the data is the most separated. Here we go. I hope you can all see that. And I'd be quite happy if you just think about that for a moment. Which of the plots is the most separated? If you want to post something in the chat or say something out loud, that would be okay too. 7. 7's a little bit hidden behind me. Yeah, but 7's got the 4 groups spread out. Alrighty, so all of them have some separation, and that's kind of the point here. Essentially, this comes from a paper in, it's 10 years ago now, when people were looking at RNA-seq data, and this was the plot that came up in that paper. That that in this high-dimensional data, these wasp species could be separated based on their gene expression. The issue is, yeah, so it actually, that data plot is in here. It's number 3 is the actual data, but all the rest of the plots here are generated by permuting the class labels, which means, and then rerunning the analysis. It's like the PCA plot that Jean showed. So by permuting the class labels means that any connection between the gene expression and the actual class is broken. And so we actually, what we learn from this is that spurious separation is bigger than the separation in the data plot. So the claim that those 4 groups could be separated based on the gene expression is not valid. And having this lineup of null plots and data plots helps people to understand the nature of high dimensions. So that's one. This is quite a decade-long research area now, coupled with technology like eye tracking. We can see how people read a page of plots where some of them are just null plots and some of them are data plots. So it's quite interesting to see how people read data plots and what their differences from one person to another. Just one more content. So when I say visualizing high dimensions, we tend to look at two variables at a time, maybe. There's a few ways you can view high dimensions, but looking at pairs of plots is a common thing to do. Let's see if this works. Yeah. But if you can, so the main way that I look at high dimensions is by looking at combinations of variables in more than 2. So this is actually just a simple case on the right, which is 4-dimensional, which is now what you're looking at an animation of combinations of the 4 variables. And what we learn, so it's just recycling the video, what we learn is that there's a very good separation between those 3 groups that's not immediately obvious from looking at just the pairwise plots on its own. So it allows us to get more insight into high dimensions and find things that we might not have seen or might have missed without that. So it's a pretty elegant algorithm to make it work, but the idea is pretty simple. So just wrapping up, what's relevant? So we want to building effective models relies on the understanding where they go right and where they go wrong, understanding which factors are most important, especially the interplay between factors. Making decisions in complex scenarios is better with effective data plots. And almost all data is multidimensional and often residing in low-dimensional linear manifolds. These are all areas that my work addresses. We'd be looking at, for collaborations that help to develop and drive core new data analysis methodology, particularly in many types of problems that use clean workflow and reproducible reporting. So thanks for listening. That's all I want to talk about.